It is never easy to say goodbye to someone you love, and it is never easy to find the right words afterwards. But sometimes the best thing you can do is simply sit quietly and talk about them. So that's what I'm doing today. My name is Henriette, and I would like to tell you about someone who meant the world to me. Her name was Gremlin. She was my cat, a gorgeous tortoiseshell, and she was, let's say, a cat who very much enjoyed her comforts. She was well fed, well settled, and completely at home in herself, in a way I always found rather lovely. She took up space in a way that only a truly happy creature can. And the space she took up in my life, in my heart, well, it was enormous. Quite out of proportion to anything you could measure. She was a cat who filled every room she was in, and I mean that in every possible sense. She had the most beautiful pale green eyes, a tiny pink nose, a white chest, and this wonderful tail, a full, proud tail, always carried upright, with just the last couple of inches curling over at the very top, like her own personal signature. She also had the most distinctive little marking running down the center of her forehead, a narrow stripe of orange, and a little peach patch on her right cheek, and what I would call an orange scarf at the back of her neck. She was just beautiful, completely and utterly beautiful. Today is the 28th of June. It would have been her 10th birthday. She was born on this day in 2016, and she left us on the 22nd of November 2024. 8 years and 5 months that I would not trade for anything. I've been thinking about her all morning, as you might imagine. I just wanted to mark the day somehow. Say her name. I'm still grieving for her, but I can at least now talk about her without crying my eyes out every time. I just wanted to say her name, talk about her a little bit. So that's what I'm doing today, on what would have been her birthday. I have a wonderful family around me, people I love deeply, and I'm grateful for every single day. But I think anyone who has truly loved an animal will understand what I mean when I say it's its own particular thing. It doesn't take anything away from anyone else. It just sits in its own quiet corner of your heart. That's where Gremlin was, and still is. Entirely her own, entirely irreplaceable. And she added something to my life that I really can't put into words, even today. She came into my life at the time when perhaps I needed company that I didn't even realize I needed. And she filled that space. Animals do, don't they? You don't have to explain yourself. They just arrive, settle in, and suddenly everything feels a bit different, a bit better. She wasn't simply a pet. I know that's what people say, and maybe it sounds like a cliche. But with Gremlin, it really was true. She was my companion, my closest companion for so many years. I told her everything, my dreams, my worries, the difficult things that sat heavily with me after a long day, the sad days, the hard days, the days when I didn't quite know how to feel, the things I couldn't tell anybody else. I would just talk to her, and she would listen in that quiet, steady way she had. And somehow there was enough, more than enough, actually. She helped carry a great many difficult parts of my day, and also the positive dreams that sometimes I didn't share with others. And I don't think she ever quite knew how much that meant. How would she? She was a cat. But she was just there, in the quiet moments, the ordinary ones, the unremarkable Tuesday afternoons, and the slow Sunday mornings. And just by being there, she made everything feel a little more comfortable, a little more like home. And she made herself very much at home, I can tell you that. Every room in the house had at least one gremlin spot, sometimes more. She was very thorough about it. The settee, the chair I sat on in the sitting room, the bed, the windowsill. And she had this particular spot she loved. The chair, the kitchen chair, tucked underneath the kitchen table. Very snug. She also had lots of different cat baskets and would also love to sit on her cat tree in the conservatory. You always knew where to find her. You just had to think about what time of the day it was and which spot made sense, and there she would be, completely settled, as though she'd always been there. Outside it was just the same. The garden had its whole gremlin geography, shifting with the seasons and the weather, and whatever she would decide made sense that day. She always knew where the sun would be. She knew the sheltered spots when it was blowy. She knew exactly where she wanted to be and when, and then she went there with absolute certainty. And if I couldn't find her and call her name, give it a couple of minutes. She would appear. And then there was the flower bed. She loved to tuck herself into the little dips and hollows in the soil. Just settle right down in amongst it all, perfectly happy, looking completely unbothered. She did this in all weathers. She would even sit out in the snow, quite deliberately, as though she found it rather pleasant. And that habit is how she got one of her nicknames. We called her Ditch Girl. She had a few nicknames over the years. Cats do collect them. But Ditch Girl was one of my favourites, because there was something so completely gremlin about it. This gorgeous, dignified tortoiseshell nestled in a dip in the soil, looking for all the world like it was the most refined thing she could possibly be doing. She had a brother too, Dinky, and she adored him in that particular way cats have of pretending they don't care, while clearly caring enormously. When he would come home, she would wait for him. She always knew somehow before he even appeared, and she would give him these tiny little kitten kisses, very gremlin, just enough to say, I noticed you were gone, and I'm glad you're back. We spent so much time together in a way that didn't actually require anything very much at all. She would sit with me while I worked, sometimes just beside me on another chair, not doing anything, just being there. And that was genuinely enough. There's something really peaceful about a companion who just wants to be near you without making a big thing of it. Other times she would curl up next to me on the bed, and we had this thing, it's hard to describe really. She would just look at me, really look at me, straight into my eyes, not asking for anything, not being demanding, just this quiet, steady gaze, like she was simply being with me, checking in. And I would look back, and there was something in those moments that felt really profound. Just two creatures who understood each other completely, without needing to say a word. And then she would reach out very gently and rest her paw on my hand. Just rest it there, not asking for anything. Just that small, quiet contact on any of the days, but especially the hard days. That meant so much. She did that the night before she died. That same long, steady look from the bed. I didn't know, of course. I had absolutely no idea. She died the next day, suddenly and unexpectedly, from a blood clot. No warning, no chance to prepare. And I've thought about that last look, so many times. I think she was just doing what she always did, just being with me. And I'm so glad I remember that look. She always seemed to know when something was off. When I needed a bit of comfort, she would just appear, settle down nearby. No fuss, no drama. That wasn't her style at all. She would just be there. Quietly, steadily, and that was always exactly right for me. Now, she wasn't all stillness and wisdom, I should say. As a kitten, she was absolutely electric in the garden, this little tortoiseshell blur going at full speed for the sheer joy of it. And she fancied herself a great hunter. She would come in very pleased with herself on more than one occasion with something she had caught, often a twiglet. She would also run around the garden, chasing the wind, literally the wind, with complete and utter conviction that she was hunting something real. She understood such a lot as well. Real words, not just her name. She knew Dinky's name too. She would prick her ears up the moment she heard it. She also knew Birdie Nice Nice. That was what I would say to her when there was a bird in the garden, and I needed her to please leave it alone. And she understood that. She would look at me, look at the bird, and you could just see her thinking it over. Her whiskers would twitch. Her tail would as well. And she would make this growly noise. And also when I said clippity-clop horsey, she would know what I meant, as we had horses going past the bedroom window where she sat each day. And then there was the mouse. This particular one still makes me laugh. One morning at 3 o'clock, she jumped in through our window and trotted very purposefully through to the sitting room and disappeared behind the armchair. As I followed her, it slowly dawned on me that she had had a live mouse with her, which she dropped behind the chair. She then came out from behind the chair all by herself and just sat there, staring at the chair and looking at me. So I talked to her for nearly 10 minutes. I sat there and talked to her very gently, every now and then saying, "Gremlin, mousy outside." And she would look at me, look away, look under the chair, and every now and then I would repeat it very patiently, "Gremlin, mousy outside," until finally she walked in behind the chair, picked the mouse up very carefully, and carried it outside, as she made that disgruntled little meow that she usually made when I asked her to do something that she didn't want to do. Her compliance noise, her under protest noise, that wonderfully grumpy little meow that meant she was doing it, but she wanted me to know exactly how she felt about it. I loved that sound so much. It was so completely, entirely Gremlin. She was never rushed, never scrambled. She liked to watch first, think it over, decide for herself. She had this quiet confidence about her, this absolute certainty about who she was and what she wanted. And she would just wait until she was ready. Whether she was carrying a mouse outside at 3 a.m, or simply deciding it was time to come and sit with me. She watched the world so carefully, nothing got past her. A leaf shifting in the wind, a bird landing on the fence, a horse going past the window. She would all follow it with total focus, very still, very intent, just watching. She never rushed into anything. She liked to observe first, to think, and to decide for herself. And I found that quietly admirable. I am not always very good at that myself, but she really was. Looking back, I think she taught me quite a few things, not deliberately, just by being herself. She taught me to slow down, to notice things. A cup of tea in a sunny spot, the rain on the window, that lovely golden light you get on a winter afternoon. She seemed to appreciate all of it so naturally, and I think being with her, maybe I started to as well. She taught me that ordinary days are worth paying attention to, that you don't need anything grand or complicated to feel content, that sometimes the best possible thing is just a warm room and someone nearby that you trust. And she taught me, this one took me longer, that it's all right to just rest, to not always be doing something, to just be still and let things be as they are, something she demonstrated every single day. whether it was from her chair under the kitchen table or her favourite dip in the flower bed. I miss her so much. I still reach for her sometimes. You get so used to a presence like that. The sound, the movements, the way a creature makes every space their own. And in Gremlin's case, every space really was hers. There wasn't a room in the house or a corner of the garden that didn't have a little piece of her in it. And now those spots are just spots, and the house is that bit quieter. If she were here today, I think we would have a slow day maybe. It's a warm day in June, and she will probably have sat beside me on a garden chair, and we still put out a chair for her whenever we're in the garden. She had her own chair, like we had. Or she may have been just sitting outside in the flower bed, in the soil to cool down, entirely unbothered, doing just as she pleased. That would have been perfect for her. It always was. She never needed very much, just warmth and company, and the ordinary rhythm of the day. And I'm grateful, genuinely and deeply grateful, for all the 8 years and 5 months, for every ordinary afternoon, for every time she rested that paw on my hand, for Dinky's little kitten kisses when he came home and she was waiting, for Birdie Nice and Mousy outside and Clippity Cloppity Horsey, for the twiglets that she caught, and for that last long look into my eyes. She made ordinary days feel special. That was her greatest gift, and I'm not sure I ever told her quite enough how much that meant to me, and even if I did, she would never have understood me. She's just a cat. I'm sharing these memories as my way of remembering her, keeping a little piece of her alive, and I think most of us have had someone, a person, an animal, somebody who made everyday life feel a little richer just by being in it. I hope when people hear me talk about Gremlin, they think of their own someone special. Because that kind of love, gentle, steady, uncomplicated, unconditional, is absolutely worth remembering. Happy birthday, my pinky-nosed kitten girl with the curly wurly tail. Thank you for listening.